The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Good afternoon and welcome to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, you can also hit me up on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. And also join us on Facebook as we march to 1,000 followers. So like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to support our sponsors, ribrub.com and joynetradio.com. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Let me just give you a quick rundown, and then we're going to do our Black Fact. We want to talk about the Louisiana 10 Commandments bill. We'll talk a little bit about that today as well. The Teen Download bill. I want to talk about that as well. This is nonsensical to me. It just makes no sense to me at all. And Anthony Edwards. We're going to talk about that later on in the show as well. He paid 18 years of child support, and women are mad. Now, I will tell you, I don't weigh into these civil type issues, but we're going to weigh into it today. I won't get into it right now, but we're going to talk about that. Also, if we get a chance, we're going to talk about how DEI is affecting your pocketbook. We're seeing it with the Signal Gate. And by the way, 2 days, $6.6 trillion lost to your 401ks and stock. Y'all worried yet? Y'all worried? I'm just asking the question. So those are a few things that we're going to talk about today. And I also want to talk about Carmelo Anthony. I don't know if you all have heard about this story. I'm not talking about the basketball star. I'm talking about the young man who finds himself in jail for stabbing another student. And all types of stuff has reared its ugly head as it relates to this. So we'll talk about that also here in just a moment. But before we get into anything and everything, we have to christen the show with Black Facts. So let's do it right now.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Israel went into Egypt with 70 people, and after approximately 750 years came out with over 2 million people, and hordes of other slaves who came out and became also part of the emerging new nation of Israel. So Israel, the biblical Israel, was a black nation, an African nation that came out of Africa and kept constant ties with Africa. And so we have to remember then that Jesus was a black Messiah, not a white Messiah, and he comes out of the whole historical background of Africa, of African traditions, of African history, of African culture, the concept of communalism, the concept of a chosen people, the concept of kingdom of God on earth. All these things were out of African tradition, not out of the white man's tradition. And Jesus was essentially a revolutionary Messiah who was trying to lead a black people in a revolt, in a struggle and conflict with a white Gentile oppressor. So the whole church has to be viewed from the point of view of the white oppressor. The white oppressor has one kind of Christianity, has one kind of church. The black church has to become independent and go back to the historic African roots of Christianity.
The biblical Abraham was a man of color, a black man. So why aren't the modern day Israelites people of color? Why aren't they black-skinned? Why shouldn't they be? In the book, The Original Black Jews by Windsor, Rudolph R., 1935, the author discusses the origins of the Hamites and Shemites, or Semites. He states that the original Israelites were of the black race, and that the biblical Abraham, or Abram, was a black Shemite, which happens to be a descendant of Shem. Abraham was the father of both the Hebrew Israelite and Arab nations. The Hebrew Israelites would mean Jacob, twin brother to Esau, who later would become Israel, whose children would be Israelites. On the other hand, the Arab nations would mean Ishmael, Abraham's first child and son whom he had with the Egyptian Hagi, who happened to be the slave maid of Abraham's wife Sarah. The Creator's words had come to pass, according to the biblical scriptures, that the both would turn out to be great nations. The black Shemites intermarried with black Hamite Egyptian women, giving rise to the Arab nation. The author also states that Arabia was originally inhabited by the Ethiopians, who are also known as the Cushites, prior to the progenitors of the Arabs. Many of today's Arabs are not black due to the introduction of white slavery. The story of King Solomon of Jerusalem and the Queen of Sheba, known as Makeda by the Ethiopians, points to the origins of the present black Jews of Ethiopia, known as the Falashas. The Falashas claim descent from the child of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, Menelik first. The queen had returned to Sheba, which was part of the Ethiopian Empire, with Menelik first. Later on, Menelik was sent to his father in Jerusalem to be educated, where he accepted the name David. The Jews who returned to Ethiopia with Menelik are claimed to be the ancestors of the Falashas. The Ethiopian emperor, Haile Selassie, was also believed to be a descendant of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. The book also describes the origins of Christianity and Islam, which are the offspring of Judaism. Here, the author refers to Christianity and Islam as the two daughters of Judaism. According to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the terms Hebrews and Israelites usually describe the same people, stating that they were called Hebrews before the conquest of the land of Canaan and Israelites afterwards. The Hebrews were an ancient Semitic-speaking people. Historians mostly consider the Hebrews as synonymous with the Israelites, with the term Hebrew denoting an Israelite from the nomadic era that preceded the establishment of the United Kingdom of Israel. According to the Deuteronomistic history in the Hebrew Bible, a united monarchy or United Kingdom of Israel existed under the reigns of Saul, Eshbaal, David, and Solomon, encompassing the territories of both the later kingdoms of Judah and Israel. Whether the united monarchy existed, and if so, to what extent, is a matter of ongoing academic debate. During the 1980s, some biblical scholars had begun to argue that the archaeological evidence for an extensive kingdom before the late 8th century BCE is too weak, and that the methodology used to obtain the evidence is flawed. Scholars had remained divided among those who support the historicity of the biblical narrative, those who doubt or dismiss it, and those who support the kingdom's theoretical existence while maintaining that the biblical narrative is exaggerated. Proponents of the kingdom's existence traditionally date it to between c. 1047 BCE and c. 930 BCE. However, in some instances, the designation Hebrews may also be used historically in a wider sense, referring to the Phoenicians or other ancient civilizations, such as the Shasu, on the eve of the late Bronze Age collapse. It appears 34 times within 32 verses of the Hebrew Bible. According to the basic interpretation, the ancestral lineage of the 12 tribes of Israel suggests that they were originally black, tracing their roots back to African ancestors. The tribes are explicitly named in the Bible, which traces their roots back to the ancient Jewish patriarchs. Having seen that the ancient Israelites had African origins, I bet the question running through your mind will be, what then is the historical background of the modern-day white Jewish population? And how did they come to be identified as Israelites? The term white Israelis typically refers to Israeli citizens who are of European or Caucasian descent, particularly those from Ashkenazi Jewish backgrounds. Ashkenazi Jews are descendants of Jewish communities that originated in Central and Eastern Europe, and many of them migrated to Israel during the 20th century. However, it's important to note that the concept of whiteness is complex and can be problematic, as it often carries connotations of privilege, power, and racial hierarchy. In Israel, the category of white Israelis can be seen as a social and political construct, as it encompasses a diverse range of communities and ethnicities. Some of the groups that might be included in the category of white Israelis are 1. Ashkenazi Jews of European descent. In the 8th century, a Turkic people called the Khazars ruled a vast empire in Eastern Europe, stretching from modern-day Ukraine to Kazakhstan. The Khazars were a powerful and influential nation, strategically located between Europe and Asia, controlling key trade routes, including the Silk Road. Around 740 CE, the Khazar king Bulan converted to Judaism, and many of his people followed suit. This conversion was likely influenced by Jewish merchants and traders who traveled along the Silk Road, introducing Judaism to the Khazar elite. The Khazars established a Jewish kingdom with its capital in Atil, modern-day Astrakhan, Russia. The kingdom was a hub of intellectual and spiritual activity, attracting Jewish scholars and teachers from across the ancient world. The Khazar Jews developed their own distinct traditions, blending Jewish practices with Turkic and Slavic customs. By the 10th century, the Khazar kingdom declined, weakened by internal conflicts and external pressures from neighboring powers. Many Khazar Jews migrated to Eastern Europe, particularly to Poland, Lithuania, and Ukraine, where they merged with existing Jewish communities. This migration marked the beginning of Ashkenazi Jewry, as Khazar Jews integrated with local Jewish populations, adopting customs and practices from their new environments. During the Middle Ages, some European groups like the Normans and Saxons converted to Judaism, further increasing the Ashkenazi Jewish population. These conversions often occurred in response to economic opportunities or social mobility. Converts brought their own cultural practices and languages, enriching the Ashkenazi Jewish heritage. Over time, the Ashkenazi Jews intermarried with local European populations, adopting customs, languages, and cultural practices. This assimilation contributed to the development of distinct Ashkenazi Jewish traditions, such as Yiddish language and literature. Ashkenazi Jews also developed unique religious practices like the use of Hebrew and Aramaic in liturgy. Hebrew was primarily used as a literary and sacred language until its 20th century revival as a common language in Israel. Ashkenazim adapted their traditions to Europe and underwent a transformation in their interpretation of Judaism. In the late 18th and 19th centuries, Jews who remained in or returned to historical German lands experienced a cultural reorientation. Under the influence of the Haskalah and the struggle for emancipation, as well as the intellectual and cultural ferment in urban centers, some gradually abandoned Yiddish in favor of German and developed new forms of Jewish religious life and cultural identity. Throughout the centuries, Ashkenazim made significant contributions to Europe's philosophy, scholarship, literature, art, music, and science. As a proportion of the world Jewish population, Ashkenazim were estimated to be 3% in the 11th century, rising to 92% in 1930 near the population's peak. The Ashkenazi population was significantly diminished by the Holocaust carried out by Nazi Germany during World War II, which killed some 6 million Jews, affecting almost every European Jewish family. In 1933, prior to World War II, the estimated worldwide Jewish population was 15.3 million. Israeli demographer and statistician Sergio D. Pergola implied that Ashkenazim comprised 65 to 70% of Jews worldwide in 2000, while other estimates suggest more than 75%. As of 2013, the population was estimated to be between 10 million and 11.2 million. Recent genetic studies reveal that Ashkenazi Jews have a complex ancestry, with origins in the Middle East, about 30 to 40%, Europe, about 40 to 50%, and North Africa and the Caucasus, about 10 to 20%. This genetic diversity reflects the Khazars and Ashkenazi Jews' history of migration, intermarriage, and assimilation. Today, Ashkenazi Jews comprise approximately 80% of the global Jewish population, with communities in Europe, North America, Israel, and beyond. Their rich cultural heritage, shaped by centuries of migration and assimilation, continues to influence Jewish identity and traditions worldwide. 2. Sephardi Jews of Spanish and Portuguese descent. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Sephardi Jews from Spain and Portugal began migrating to Palestine, then under Ottoman rule. They were drawn by the promise of religious freedom and the chance to escape persecution. As Zionist ideology gained traction, more Sephardi Jews arrived, eager to build a new life in the Jewish homeland. However, they faced discrimination from Ashkenazi Jewish immigrants, who saw them as Arab Jews or Oriental Jews. Despite this, the Sephardi Jews thrived in Palestine, establishing communities and cultural institutions. But with the establishment of Israel in 1948, their identity began to shift. Israeli policy and education emphasized the importance of European heritage, and Sephardi Jews began to adopt Ashkenazi customs and language. They were encouraged to abandon their Ladino language and Middle Eastern traditions, which were seen as backward and Arab. As Sephardi Jews assimilated into Israeli society, they started to identify as white and European, distancing themselves from their Middle Eastern and North African roots. This process was reinforced by Israel's Eurocentric culture and the desire to westernize the country. Over time, Sephardi Jews became white Israelis, an identity that obscured their complex history and cultural heritage. Today, some Sephardi Jews in Israel continue to grapple with their identity, seeking to reclaim their Sephardic roots and challenge the dominant Ashkenazi narrative. 3. The Mizrahi Jews of Middle Eastern and North African descent. When Israel was founded in 1948, more than 700,000 Palestinians were expelled or forced to flee their homes in what is now the Jewish state. But from the early days of the state, there was a group that didn't buy the justification, the Jews with roots in the Arab and Muslim world. Called Mizrahim in Israel, these Jews today make up the largest ethnic group in the country. They mostly immigrated to Israel after 1948, and for much of the country's history, they have been victims of the same kind of anti-Arab ideology that is wielded against the Palestinians. For centuries, Mizrahi Jews had enjoyed high status in their countries of origin in the Middle East and North Africa, which ranged from Iraq to Egypt to Morocco. But when they landed in Israel, they found that the new state was ruled by European Jews, called Ashkenazim, who overwhelmingly viewed them as primitive and culturally backward. As Mizrahi Jews assimilated into Israeli society, they faced intense pressure to abandon their Middle Eastern and North African cultures. This was perpetuated by the Ashkenazi-dominated government, education system, and media, which promoted a Eurocentric worldview. Mizrahi Jews were encouraged to adopt Ashkenazi customs, language, and practices, and suppress their traditional ways. The Israeli government and media often portrayed Mizrahi Jews as backward and uncivilized, and many were forced to abandon their cultural traditions and language in order to become Israeli. Mizrahi Jews were also subject to whitening policies aimed at erasing their non-European features. This included forced assimilation, cultural suppression, and even physical transformation. For example, they were offered nose jobs to fix non-European facial features. Some Mizrahi Jews were even forced to change their names to sound more Israeli in order to gain acceptance and access to resources and opportunities. Through this process, Mizrahi Jews began to identify themselves as white Israelis, a classification that obscured their Middle Eastern and North African heritage. This shift was not a natural evolution, but a result of systemic discrimination and cultural erasure. Mizrahi intellectuals at the time were quick to link the discrimination against them to the discrimination against Palestinians. Orientalism, Palestinian scholar Edward Said's term for a European tendency to portray the East as exotic, irrational, and uncivilized, was being used to cast both groups as inferior and deny them equal rights. Their struggle was one and the same, and so starting in the 1950s, Mizrahim and Palestinians formed a solidarity movement, producing everything from joint magazines to joint street protests. This movement offered a counterpoint to the Villa in the Jungle view of Israel, an alternative vision for how Jews and Palestinians can live together on the land. It also offers a more nuanced way to think about contemporary debates on the meaning of indigeneity, nationhood, and colonialism in Israel-Palestine. 4. Immigrants from the former Soviet Union and other European countries. In the 1990s and 2000s, a significant wave of immigrants arrived in Israel from the former Soviet Union and other European countries, including Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and others. This migration was driven by various factors, such as political instability, economic hardship, and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Many of these immigrants were Jewish or had Jewish ancestry, and were eligible for Israeli citizenship under the law of return. They were attracted to Israel's promise of safety, economic opportunity, and a chance to reconnect with their Jewish heritage. Some were also motivated by a desire to escape anti-Semitism and discrimination in their home countries. As a result, Israel experienced a significant influx of new citizens, who would eventually become an integral part of Israeli society. Upon arrival, they were initially considered others within Israeli society. However, as they assimilated, they began to be perceived as white Israelis. This shift was facilitated by their European background, which aligned with the dominant Ashkenazi culture. As they settled in Israel, they adopted Hebrew, learned about Jewish customs, and integrated into society. Many abandoned their unique cultural identities and embraced Ashkenazi norms, which were seen as the standard for Israeliness. Over time, they became an integral part of Israeli society, contributing to its diversity and complexity. Today, many immigrants from European countries are identified as white Israelis, often unaware of the historical power dynamics that shaped their identity. The small country of Israel was established as a refuge for the oppressed white European Jews, who in turn became oppressors of people of color, the Palestinians. Although Israeli society is not racially divided between blacks and whites in the way that American society has long been, still blackness in Israel has shaped the relations between Jews and Arabs, Ashkenazim and Mizrahim, Ethiopians and immigrant workers from Africa. Despite the salience of blackness in Israel, scholars of Israel and the wider academic field of Israel studies have largely ignored it so far. In this video, I argue that the reason for this scholarly neglect is that in Israel, blackness does not neatly fit into the conventional configurations that exist in countries like the US and the UK. I further stipulate that in its uniqueness, the Israeli case shows that blackness transgresses color lines in new and unexpected ways, offering fresh perspectives on Israeli society and challenging the arbitrary stipulations of blackness as a concept. There are many significant differences, but also some similarities. While Israeli society is not racially divided between blacks and whites in the way that American society has long been, Israelis are certainly not colorblind, and having black skin can also have fatal consequences in Israel. For instance, in June 2019, Solomon Teka, an 18-year-old Israeli Jew of Ethiopian descent, was shot to death by an Israeli policeman. This outburst had sparked widespread demonstrations and rioting at the time. The Solomon Teka incident was not an unprecedented event. In April 2015, video footage of Israeli policemen brutalizing Damas Pakada, a Jewish Ethiopian soldier, moved thousands of Israelis, Ethiopians, and others to the streets. One of the reasons this incident prompted a strong reaction was the fact that Pakada was an on-duty soldier wearing his military uniform. Military service is widely perceived as the ultimate rite of passage into Israeli society and as a stamp of approval for being a loyal Israeli citizen. Watching the footage of the assault on Damas Pakada that was captured by a security camera, many Israelis saw Pakada not only as an individual, but as an example of the successful assimilation of Ethiopians in Israel. Yet the incident revealed that despite this assimilation, Ethiopian Israelis still suffer from police brutality and discrimination even when they are in their official garb. Thus, in their protests, Israeli Ethiopians accused the police and the Israeli establishment more broadly of racism against their community due to their skin color. Such claims by Ethiopian Israelis, and the statistics that support them, have had a strong impact on Israeli public opinion. Notwithstanding the many schisms and tensions characterizing Israeli society, most Israelis still adhere to the idea of eliminating the differences between Jews in the country. Although the term black was used in Israeli discourse even before the establishment of the state and was attributed to various groups, Israelis do not usually perceive themselves or groups in Israeli society in racial terms. Therefore, the Pakada incident, revealing this hidden racial aspect, gained widespread attention in Israel well beyond the Ethiopian community. This was not the first time, however, that blackness was associated with official racism and discrimination in Israel. In 1971, second-generation Mizrahi immigrants living in the poor neighborhood of Musrara in Jerusalem formed the Israeli Black Panther movement. By identifying themselves as blacks, these Mizrahi youngsters alluded to the gap between the official Zionist narrative of ingathering the Jewish exiles and the reality in which some Jews remained outsiders in their home country. For the Israeli Black Panthers, blackness would serve mainly as a metaphor, whereas for Ethiopian Israelis, blackness is the material fact of their skin color, which makes them a target for institutional and systemic discrimination. On and on, the cases of discrimination by white Israelis on the black Israelis still continues. It is clearly obvious that behind the label, white Israeli, lies a complex tapestry of experiences shaped by history, culture, and circumstance. Their identities are multifaceted, influenced by a rich heritage of European Jewish traditions, the trauma of the Holocaust, and the resilience of immigrants seeking refuge. This complex identity is further nuanced by the blending of traditional and modern values and the intricate interplay between ethnicity, religion, and nationality. In closing, the question, "Who are these white Israelis?" echoes through the corridors of history, revealing a complex tapestry of identity, power, and displacement. We have unraveled the threads of European colonization, Zionist ideology, and the dispossession of Palestine. Today, we stand at a crossroads where the myth of a homogeneous white Israel crumbles beneath the weight of truth. We recognize the diverse narratives, Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, Sephardi, and Palestinian, intertwined yet conflicted. Let us shatter the illusions of supremacy and reclaim our shared humanity. Let us confront the systems of oppression that have ravaged the Middle East and beyond. To the Palestinian people, we acknowledge your resilience, your struggle, and your right to self-determination. Your freedom is our freedom. To the Israeli people, we urge you to confront the mirror of history and question the narrative of exclusivity. Together we can forge a new path, built on justice, equality, and coexistence. A path where 1. Refugees return home. 2. Walls crumble. And 3. Voices rise. We are the generation that will redefine what it means to be Israeli, Palestinian, and human. We will write a new chapter, one of reconciliation, solidarity, and peace. The time for change is now. That brings us to the end of yet another interesting video segment. And with that, we say thanks for coming this far with us to the very end. Do kindly hit the thumb button, share this video with friends and families to keep spreading our eye-opening Black narrative, and consider subscribing to stay tuned in with us always for more revealing contents, if you are yet to. We are glad to have you here with us. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on JoyNetRadio.com.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that Black fact. Of course, it talked about the origin of the real Jews. It even mentioned the Falashas, and it mentioned one of my favorite authors, Dr. Rudolph Windsor. These are two great books. This book right here, well, let me talk, Babylon to Timbuktu. It tells you about the ancient African civilizations and the Valley of the Dry Bones, where I first learned about the Falashas, and they mentioned the Falashas in that segment. So I hope you enjoyed that. We've got to take a break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on JoyNetRadio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at JoyNetRadio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to JoyNetRadio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about JoyNetRadio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at JoyNetRadio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on JoyNetRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to the show, Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We're going to talk a little bit about politics this first hour. Next hour, I want to get into the Anthony Edwards story, of course. Just to give you a little background, I spent a lot of time in fathers' rights during my life in Tennessee. And I have some serious issues about fathers' rights and my reproductive rights. And I found it interesting. So when Anthony Edwards did what he did, how many people attacked him. And I thought about it for a little while, but I have a different view that I want to talk about as it relates to that. I do want to talk a little bit about this new Louisiana 10 Commandments bill. And there are bills popping up around in a lot of these red states. And I recall that Arkansas passed one of these bills a few years ago. and they ended up regretting it. So, I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, well, if prayer was back in schools, the kids wouldn't be the way they are. I would argue that if prayer was back at home, maybe the kids wouldn't be the way they are, because those kids came to school with a modicum of morality that they no longer have today. And a lot of that is because their parents are not teaching them at home, or more importantly, their parents aren't at home. They are in single parent households. The list goes on and on about the degradation of our society as it relates to what's going on in our schools. So I find it interesting that somebody would think that, hey, I can put up the 10 Commandments in classrooms and mandate it and make sure that everybody pays attention to it, and then decide that if you don't, then what's going to be the penalty. The other thing that is disturbing to me, and I'll tell you a little bit about what happened in Arkansas, is the fact that during the time that prayer was in school back in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, we had segregation. We had Jim Crow. So I'm a little confused. Are you saying that your God is different from the God that black people were praying for or praying to? Or are you saying that God is okay with how you segregated black people and put Japanese in internment camps and so on and so forth? I'm a little confused when people say, well, if we had prayer in schools, we wouldn't have this problem. Well, yeah, prayer has nothing to do with it. In fact, we saw those quote-unquote Christians who raped and pillaged Africa and enslaved a people for 400 years, how prayer was okay. So, I would tend to believe, and I find it interesting that there are a lot of people trying to go to Louisiana to put things in court, assuming that those Louisiana judges are more right-wing and will rule in their favor. Now, let me just be clear with you. Just because it's the law doesn't make it right. Okay? Just because it's the law doesn't make it right. See segregation. See Jim Crow. See black codes. See slavery. Just because it's the law doesn't make it right. And I find it interesting that people are running to Louisiana, hoping that Louisiana, for whatever reasons, because it's in the South, will rule in some right-wing way. It's really interesting. That water's nice and cold. Okay, so the other issue that I want to talk about, well, let me, before I leave that, let me just say, I said I would tell you about what happened in Arkansas, right? A couple of years ago, Arkansas passed this bill that there should be a statue of the 10 Commandments on the state legislature, on the Capitol grounds. If you don't know much about Arkansas, I grew up in Little Rock, and Little Rock is the capital, and it is the one Capitol building that resembles the one in Washington, D.C. There was a movie, I forgot the name of it, years ago, that they used where the Capitol was being attacked, and they actually used Arkansas's Capitol in Little Rock as the actual filming place in order to make that movie more realistic. I've forgotten what that movie was. But anyway, Arkansas put up this tablet of the 10 Commandments, and then they were sued. They were sued by, what do they call themselves? A satanic cult. And they said that if they can put, 10 Commandments up at the state capitol, then the cult should be able, the Satanists should be able to put up their commandments on the Capitol ground. And of course, the state cannot favor one religion over the other. Who's to say that someone wanted to worship snakes or cats or dogs or whatever, then this is why you run into that slippery slope, because Arkansas ultimately had to put up this satanic symbology on their Capitol grounds for a while, until it was eventually taken down along with the Ten Commandments. So here's the other point. There are, I don't know how many religions there are in the world, and I certainly don't know how many religions there are here in the state or in this country. But I mean, if you ask the question, how many religions there are in the world, I mean, who knows at this point? But if you're telling kids that, let's see, and I just did a quick search real fast. This is showing that there's close to 10,000 religions in the world. So let's say you had 10,000 kids who decided to sue the state because they're putting up the Ten Commandments in class, but they're not putting up snake worshipers. You see how that's a problem? Nobody's upset about your religion. And then to mandate that there's going to be classes and books that's going to be written. What if you're Muslim? What if you're Hindu? You know, there are all kinds of religions, and America is a melting pot. So Christianity is not, number one, the state religion. It never was. That's laid out in the Constitution. So where are these people coming by trying to get you or have these legislative halls or schools to put up the Ten Commandments? It's a slippery slope. And if the courts rule the way they should, then those 10 commandments should not be put up in court. I don't care if you want to go out on lunch and pray and read the Bible. You look, while I was in high school, they had something called FCA, okay? Fellowship of Christian Athletes. That was done off the clock, outside of school hours. A lot of times, a lot of them would come into the athletic departments because they were trying to get the young males to participate. But you know, it wasn't one of those things where it was mandatory and they were trying to make you do it and so on and so forth, which they shouldn't. And under the Constitution of the United States, they can't. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So I'm curious to see where this Louisiana law is going to go. And we'll keep you posted on that, because it makes no sense whatsoever what they're trying to do. The other thing I want to talk about as it relates to the law, and I've been hearing a lot of these commercials. There's, I believe it's called the Teen App Download Bill, and they are pushing it in Congress. And basically what this bill is, that they are trying to make sure that anyone who has an app, and you know there are millions of apps out there that you can go out and download at your Google store or your Apple store and whatever the case may be. We just recently heard about an app, the Signal Download app, that the president and his cronies are using to keep people from finding out what's going on in their administration. Because that's really what that is, because you can set that particular app to have messages to disappear after a certain amount of days, maybe a certain amount of hours, so that they cannot be tracked, or you cannot be tracked for that matter. I find that interesting. So these teenagers, because they have phones, they have tablets, they have computers, are going out and downloading these apps from various places. And some of these apps are not very good. Some of these apps open the door to some dangerous situation. I mean, we've all heard and read the news about apps being groomed on certain, teens being groomed on certain apps that the parent didn't know anything about, that they had downloaded. And they end up running away with some man or some woman, or getting kidnapped or raped or murdered. And there have been some horrific things that have went on as it relates to these apps. okay? Or at least as it relates to people contacting minors and children through these apps. And it's unfortunate because once the internet is one of those things that it opened up the world to things that you had no idea could come through your front door, and you allowed to come through your front door by this thing called the internet, okay? If you buy a phone and give it data, or a tablet and you give it data, you allow it to come through to your teen because you gave it that data, okay? Or even if you buy the platform, whether it's a phone, whether it's a computer, whether it's a tablet, now you've opened up your child to some of the dirty things that are out there on the internet. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the internet is fantastic. It is one of the most dynamic creations that I've seen in my lifetime. And I've seen a lot of different creations, okay? But the internet is by far the best because it puts information right at your fingertips, okay? Whatever you want to know, it's on the internet. I used to tease my children and my son particularly and tell him when he'd ask me a question and tell him that Google is a wonderful tool. Go look it up. And it has done him well since then, by the way. So this teen download bill, I have a problem with it. Because you remember, I said when you buy your child a phone, a computer, an iPad, you, mama, daddy, you open up the world to your child. Now, I know what you're saying. You say, well, Dave, they've got to have them. They're in school, yada, 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 yada. But here's the thing. You can control what goes on and comes in and out of your house. Okay? You can do that because there are parental controls. All right. So here's a good one. How teens dupe parents out of getting their passwords to the internet. Mom, can I get the password because I want to put my PlayStation on the internet? Guess what? You give him the password instead of you typing it in because you know you can type it in, but you don't have time because you're talking to your girlfriend or your wife or your husband in another room, whatever the case may be. Now you just gave the child the password. So now if he's got a phone, tablet, or computer, all those other apps that he wanted to download, he can now download them because he's got the password to your Wi-Fi. The other thing is that you've got parental controls on most of, if not all of these downloads now. If you're a parent, now my kids are grown, I don't have to worry about parental control. But if you have a teen, a preteen in your house, you should be worried about parental control. A few years back, the legislature decided that this was a necessary thing to do. It's not a bad idea. You give the parents a little bit more a say-so and about what they want their teens to download and what they don't want them to download. So what's the purpose of the teen download bill, the teen app download bill? Is it to stop them from downloading apps? So I'm going to say this again. Parent, you cannot sit back and be lazy when it comes to the internet. I'm just going to be honest with you. You might as well, let's put it this way. Would you leave your front door open? I wouldn't. So when you don't pay attention to what your children are downloading on the web, then it becomes problematic. And now you want government to step in to try and stop it. No. The first line of defense and in the family is mama and daddy or whomever the parent is in that house. Yeah, I know you got 6 kids, but maybe you shouldn't have had 6 kids. But you shouldn't be trying to make government do something that you should be doing by paying attention to what your child is downloading. And here's the other thing. Do you check their phones? You should. Why aren't you checking their phones? It makes all the sense in the world. Don't you pay for their phones? Even if you don't, I know an instance where a grandmama bought the child a phone. That parent still checks those phones. Why aren't you checking the phones? It makes all the sense in the world to me. It should make all the sense in the world to you. So why do we need a bill to help you raise your children? Because you want to be lazy. The teen app download bill it's going to be, and here's the other thing. Just like I gave you that example of how they're going to dupe you out of your password, they're going to do it. And many of these teams can hack your passwords because y'all don't put in good passwords. Y'all put in the birthdays and stuff that is obvious. That's why your stuff is getting hacked. We don't need Big Brother telling us what we can download and what we can't download. Because at the end of the day, here's what I would do to your team. Once a week, I would have them, unbeknownst to them, I wouldn't even announce it. I'd say, bring me your phone. And by the way, there are no passwords that mama and daddy don't know as it relates to your phone, your PlayStation, your Xbox, your tablet, your iPad, your whatever you have, your computer. There's no password mama and daddy don't know. Because here's the thing. I bought you that apparatus. I provide the internet for you. That's my stuff. This is my house. See, the problem that we have with parents and teens today is that parents are trying to be friends with their teens. No. They live in your house. You pay their bills. They eat your food. You work 40, 50 hours a week so they can get those shoes, those clothes. Everything in that house belongs to the parent, not that teen. So when I say bring me your phone and I want the password, so when I type in the password that I may have it on a list, and by the way, don't change your password without letting me know. I type in your password and I see all kinds of BS on your phone or your tablet or your computer, then yeah, I'm taking your phone. I'm taking your PlayStation. I'm taking your tablet and I'm taking your computer. Sorry if you gotta work, but we're not playing that in this house. We're not playing that at all in this house. So why do we need a teen download bill? A teen app download bill? Mama and daddy, you are the master of your castle and you need to start taking control over it. And if your teen is running it, therein lies the problem. We'll take a break. Back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on JoyNetRadio.com.
Listen! Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on JoyNetRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to the show, Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we're going to get into that here in just a moment. We talked a little bit about the teen download bill, the Louisiana 10 Commandments bill, and I'm going to talk about Anthony Edwards next hour. But I want to take this time, these last few minutes of this hour, to talk about this kid named Carmelo Anthony. I don't know if you've heard this story, but this kid, and I'm not talking about the basketball player, there was this young kid by the name of Carmelo Anthony who was at a track meet, and apparently it started raining. And if you've ever been to a track meet, there is typically no shelter most of the athletes, most of the track teams will find a corner of the track, away from the track, and they'll put up a little shed where they can have some shade. A lot of times it's smoking hot out there, but then quite often it rains. And this is what happened at this particular track meet. And young Carmelo ran to shelter, which was another school's shelter. And apparently he knew some people on there, which is not a surprise. When you compete in athletics, particularly in high school, you know people across the city, across the state, particularly if you are a top flight athlete, you know the other top flight athletes in that state, because most often you've been to camps and so on and so forth. You participated with them, mainly if it's track season now, you probably played in basketball, you probably played football, so you know these kids. So apparently Carmelo knew some of the people at this opposing school, and he ran under their tent. And there were two guys, they were twins, who has been noted as being bullies. And they were harassing young Carmelo. And allegedly they tried to push him out from under the tent and so on and so forth. And of course, all of this is going to come out in court. And Carmelo had told them, "Don't put your hands on me." And apparently they kept doing it. And Carmelo had a knife in his backpack, from what the reports are. And he stabbed one of those young men. And the young man died. Now, Carmelo, who was black, and the twins were white. And of course, you know, that's going to make it a racial issue, or at least some people will try to make it a racial issue. The father has come out and asked white people to stop making it a racial issue. It was unfortunate what happened, but he didn't believe that it had anything to do with race. Those many people who, some have taken young Carmelo's side, and others have taken the side of the twin who was stabbed. And Carmelo right now is in court for, well, he's not in court, he's in jail. He's got a huge bond from what I understand. And there are people who are taking up money on there's a GoFundMe account where people are taking up money. But what is really being said, and again, all of this is alleged. I wasn't there, you weren't there. No one knows. We can hear all the rumors that were said under the tent. We don't know what is true and what's not true. It's all going to come out in court. But at the end of the day, the argument certainly can be made that when the twins pushed young Carmelo, and he had already told them that don't put your hands on me, which means that they had already put their hands on him. When they pushed him again, he was defending himself. That was self-defense. Now again, I don't know. Wasn't there. I'm only going by the reports that I've read. And I find it interesting, though, that I was on a Facebook chat about this earlier today. And it was just fascinating how the white people were going in about this. Okay? It was, I say fascinating because I'm being kind. It was really racist. Okay, because they want it to be a racial issue. Now, here's the thing. If someone tells you don't put your hands on them, and you turn around and put your hands on them, then you assaulted that person. Now, that person is allowed to defend him or herself. Now, quite often, they don't defend themselves, or quite often the court would say you defend yourself commensurate to the force that was used against you. Okay? Here's the problem I have with that, is that in this particular case, this wasn't one-on-one. These were twins, two people against one person. Two people against one person. And certainly young Carmelo had the right to fear for his life. If nothing else, these kids were already bullies. That can be stated by a lot of people apparently in that school. Now, the argument could be made, well, why did he run under their tent? Well, he was running for shelter. I don't think anyone, look, it's almost like if you're outdoors somewhere and it just starts raining, everybody's going to run for shelter. They don't choose where they're going to shelter. They just run for shelter. That's what he did. I don't see anything wrong with that. And for anyone to suggest that it is, what's your problem, man? This young man just wanted to get out of the shelter. get out of the rain. And then, by the way, if it was a storm, shoot, man, you don't want to be out on that track. You get lit up, literally. If you don't get what I just said, then you've never been to a track meet. But it is certainly an unfortunate story, and it's something that we've got to keep our eye on and get out. Whether you agree or disagree, this young man, he deserves due process. I find it interesting that when it comes to due process, black people don't get the benefit of the doubt. Just recently, y'all remember the story of Sonia Massey? Y'all remember that? And how they tried to glorify the police. The young lady who called police for help and ended up getting shot in the head because the police talked crazy to her, and she told him that she rebukes him or something like that, and he feared for his life and claimed because she had some boiling water on the stove that he had a right to shoot her. Y'all remember that? By the way, the city now has settled with her family for $10 million. That kind of tells you right there. Now, what happened to the police, we don't know yet. But the city has settled for $10 million. So it's always the black person who is guilty. I watch a lot of these accountability people that are on Facebook. And it's amazing how these police will just walk up to a black guy and say, hey, show me your ID. They'll do it to white folks too, but they seem to do it a lot to black people. Show me your ID. Well, look, I don't have to show you my ID. You're in a car and you're a passenger. You don't have to show your ID. And they'll lie and say all kinds of things and threaten you and detain you and put you in handcuffs and so on and so forth to try to bully you into showing you their ID. And now with this climate that is going on that is so right-wing, pro-white, these people are getting bolder and bolder by the minute, demanding that you do certain things or you be certain things. So, look, I'm going to wait till the trial. There's going to be a lot about this story. It already is. But I'm really, really interested in the trial itself and the facts of this case. Because, number one, I need to tell my white people out there, black people are not going back, folks. And y'all can use the N-word and say all these things and these code words that you use. Look, the bottom line is black people are never going back to Jim Crow. They're not. This country is never going back to Jim Crow. I believe that there are enough good white people out there that understand that what we had in our past was wrong, and we're not going to let it go back. Which reminds me, did you go to the April 5th march? I saw some pictures of that and didn't see many of us out there, and good for you. Y'all want to fight? Then y'all go ahead and fight. We'll decide if we're going to join y'all, because we got to get some benefit out of it. That's just the bottom line on it. But anyway, this Carmelo Anthony case, it doesn't set well with me. It just doesn't. By the way, the Sonia Massey case that I was just telling you about, have you seen that anywhere in the news? Have you seen that on national media? No, you haven't. Because white media wants to sensationalize black on white crime or police on black crime. But when the police or white people are in the wrong, they usually don't published part 2 of those stories. I wonder why. Things that make you go, Either way, we'll take a break, top of the hour. We'll be back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
All right, welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. A lot of stuff to talk about this hour, but this hour I want to talk about something, and it's basically father's rights. Okay? I'm going to talk about, I don't talk about it much on the show. Many of you all who don't know me may be new to the show at one point, and you can go out to my Facebook page. There's a page out there called I Love My Children Too that is sponsored by me. At one point, I had an organization, or at least I ran the organization called I Love My Children Too. Was thinking about setting it up as a nonprofit. I haven't done it as of yet. That's something I may still do as we move forward, but I am the founder and president of that organization, and it was an organization designed to fight for fathers' rights. Okay, because fathers' rights don't exist in the judicial square. It just doesn't. It's part of the reason that I don't support abortion. It has nothing to do with an ideology for me. It has everything to do with my parental rights. I am 50% responsible for that child being here, or at least being conceived. I maintain the argument that let me put it this way. I have my reproductive rights and freedoms, and a woman has her reproductive rights and freedoms. Okay? Once those two decide that they are consenting adults and they are going to have sex, then those reproductive rights are now joined, if in fact there is conception. That's my argument. Those reproductive rights are joined. No one has the right of that fetus over the other, whether it's male or female, whether it is the carrier of the fetus or the person who delivered the fertilization in order for that zygote to become a fetus. At that point, your parental rights are now 50-50. You, as a woman, do not have the right to go out and have an abortion without the other person's consent. Now, I know that's not the law. That's how it should be. Okay? You also, if you are a woman and you decide that you want to carry that baby to term, here's something you can do. You believe in, you don't believe in abortion. So you say, okay, I'm going to carry the baby to term, but I'm going to go and give it away. I'm going to put it up for adoption without the rights or without the father even knowing. Y'all know that happens? Yes, it does. It happens regularly. Or I'm going to have the baby and make you become a daddy. And you're going to pay me child support. Wait a minute, I got a question. where do my parental rights, the male, where does his parental rights come into play with all of that? Can you answer that question for me? I'm just simply saying, this is not right. So I fought for fathers' rights, didn't make much progress because a lot of men didn't get involved. Don't know if I have the wherewithal to do it at my age now. But my point is this, is that men have no reproductive rights. And I, as a man, I do not support something that I cannot have, even though I'm 50% responsible for the birth of a child. That's why I don't support abortion. I just don't. I don't support reproductive freedom for women, because reproductive freedom for women further emasculates my reproductive rights. I just don't support it. And a lot of women don't like me saying this. But what's fair is fair. Now, why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about this? Anthony Edwards, who is an NBA player, apparently gets this woman pregnant, and he wanted her to have an abortion. He gave her the money to have an abortion. Now, instead of her having the abortion, she put the money in her pocket. And she went ahead and carried the baby to term. Now, here again, if she didn't want to have, even if he wouldn't have requested her to have the abortion, and she would have decided to have the abortion, Anthony Edwards would have had no say-so whatsoever. My body, my right. But because she decided she wanted to have the baby and carry it to term, she did. Do you see why this doesn't make any sense? See, you all are caught up in some of the other mess that is going on with this. I'm not. There's a bigger issue here. There's a bigger issue here. She decided that she was going to have the baby. Had she decided that she didn't want, and make Anthony Edwards the daddy. By the way, she had already had a child by another NFL player. Many people are saying that the woman at her age, she's 39, she's preying on some of these young men who are NFL stars. I would argue that you got to be smarter if you're one of these NFL or NBA or whomever, these superstar athletes and musicians. I would argue you got to be smarter, because these women, a lot of these women are out here gold diggers. I'm sorry if you get mad, ladies. You know I'm telling the truth. If I could just videotape during the time that I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and I covered the Tennessee Titans, and when you would go down there before and particularly after the games, and you would see all of those women lined up in the Titans parking lot trying to get a look. Some of them probably already have gotten a look. Or if you go to an event where the Titans are sponsoring and all these women show up and they ain't giving the regular brothers any time of day, but the football players are getting all the play, you know what's going on. We ain't no fool here. So this young lady, Aisha Howard, decided that, hey, she was going to carry this baby to term, which she, in my opinion, shouldn't have. If the man tells you, hey, look, I don't want the baby, I'm not going to have anything to do with the baby, yada, 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 then you may need to think about that. The question is, did you have the baby because it was Anthony Edwards and he was an NBA star? Or would you have had the baby if he was Anthony Edwards working at McDonald's? I don't care if you get mad at me because this is reality. Yes, Anthony Edwards should have wrapped it up. Patrick Ewing and a lot of those guys back in the day used to talk about how these women used to entrap them with the baby, or try to entrap them with the baby. There are stories of how women will keep condoms and put them in the freezer and later impregnate themselves or try to impregnate themselves. These are real stories. So Anthony Edwards should have been on point about wrapping his stuff up and making sure that he was not going to get caught up because you are an NBA star. And there are women out there who are preying on you because you are an NBA star. This is why if you are a guy of any means whatsoever, because the marriage life is not fair to men, period, then maybe you need to get a prenup. Now, if you ain't got nothing, hey, it ain't gonna matter. But if you've got a lot of money, and look, I would argue that women ought to do the same. If you meet this man and you're making millions of dollars and he's not, then yeah, you should get a prenup. There's nothing wrong with that. But this argument that people are making here and attacking Anthony Edwards now because he does not want to live with want any parts of this woman. He knew what it was. Y'all know what it was. It was a wham bam, thank you ma'am. That's it. Now, I'm not trying to impugn her character, but I find it fascinating that everybody's trying to impugn Anthony Edwards' character because here it is. See, this comes to the crux, and this is the argument that no one is making. What are Anthony Edwards' reproductive rights? If Anthony Edwards or any man decides that he doesn't want to have a child, is the argument on, well, you should have wrapped it up, or you shouldn't have got her pregnant? But if it's the woman, then she can say, oh, you know what? I can take the morning after pill. I don't want to have I'm going to have an abortion, or I'm going to give it up for adoption. I'm not going to even tell him. In fact, he may want the child, but she's not going to tell him, so she's going to give it up for adoption. Women do that all the time. They've been doing it for decades. But if the man says, those are 3 instances where a woman can say, I don't want the child. But if the man says, I don't want the child, then guess what? He don't have a choice. Again, what is Anthony Edwards' reproductive rights? That's the question that we should be asking in a society that says women are equal and men are equal. Are you simply saying that because men don't have a womb that they have no parental rights? Is that what you're saying? Are you simply saying that mothers are the better parent than fathers? Is that what you're saying? Because I got data to the contrary of that. We know for a fact that children raised in a single parent, single father household are more likely to be successful than those raised in a single mother's household.
Oh yeah, at ReaBud.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from ReaRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumballs and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on ReaRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaBud.com.
18 years of child support up front. Now, Howard has come out and said he didn't do that. But Anthony Edwards is certainly making enough money where he could do that.
Something different. There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural
He's certainly
self.
making enough that he could do that.
What's your secret?
Okay, Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
If he did,
SkinTentional.com.
Is he wrong?
Yes. SkinTentional.com is
well,
handcrafted, luxurious,
let's go back to what Anthony Edwards
and
told
body
us.
care products. Crafted for
he
those
said
with
that he didn't want anything to
taste
do
for
with the child.
skincare
In fact, he said he didn't want the child. He paid for
From
an
body
abortion,
butter
which
to oils
she
and soaps,
refused to get.
SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man
Now,
some beer
I know what women are saying. Well, it was her body who wanted to have an abortion.
Well, it smell like flowers.
What are the odds that
Go to
she's had an abortion
and check
already?
out their amazing products.
Sorry, don't get mad at me. I'm just being honest. We're talking adult. We're adulting here.
SkinTentional.com.
Okay.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning
rubber. Could we argue that maybe she didn't want to have an abortion because she knew that Anthony Edwards was her meal ticket?
Did I say food? Can't have
she got an
without
NFL
food.
player.
What kind of show is this?
Now she's got an NBA player. What's next? Hockey?
Oh, okay.
I would say WNBA, but you know that's
we do have it all, and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
But if you knew, think about it from this perspective. If in fact Anthony Edwards did pay $1 million in child support up front, all 18 years, whatever that is, if you knew that you were going to get $1 million, would you quit? There are women right now who having babies who are on public assistance and keep having babies. Where's the lie? Exactly. So if women who are getting extra food stamps having babies because they know if I have another baby, I'll get more food stamps. Is it too far-fetched to believe that a woman would have a child from an NBA star because she knows that he's a multi-millionaire? And Ant-Man is a young man. He's got at least 2 more contracts in him. And especially if he continues to play the way he's playing right now. That's her. She ain't got to work at all. She ain't got to do nothing. Remember the girl who went after the Kansas City receiver? Claimed that he had domestically abused her and he was about to get a $16 million contract, and if in fact he was found to have domestically abused her, that she would end up with some or if not all of his money. Hello? Y'all follow me? Let's stop pretending that all of these women out here are saints. And based on what we've been seeing lately, our women have devolved. I'm just being real with you. They are not the women that I grew up with. Everybody's about trying to get that bag. Everybody's about trying to, find out how I can get over on someone. And these women are no exception. So y'all don't remember that story? Y'all don't? What was it, Xavier Worthy? Yeah, y'all don't remember that? So I wanted to weigh in on this story because there's a lot of stuff going around on the web about Anthony Edwards. Look, I would be hard pressed not to want to see my child. That's just me. Okay? That's just me. And maybe in fact, as time goes on, he may eventually warm up to that. Now, I know Karl Malone never did. We don't know everybody has castigated Karl Malone and don't know, well, we know why Karl Malone, because, allegedly Karl Malone, the child that he ignored was by a girl that was underage. That's a total different story. But these were consenting adults. These two were consenting adults, Howard and Edwards. They were consenting adults. And the question is, why does she have parental rights and he doesn't? And why are people trying to castigate Edwards and not her? Because she's a sleazebag. I don't care what you say. Don't talk about a woman like that. Look, a woman can be just as dirty as a man, and I've met some personally. Okay? So I just think, I'm pulling up this Xavier Worthy story because it's just so crazy. Let's see. This is from WBAL right here in Baltimore, here where I am. Let's see. And let's see, it was released Saturday after a domestic attorney in Texas declined to pursue charges against the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver following an arrest in which he had been accused of felony domestic violence. Williamson County attorney Sean Dick told Austin American-Statesman his office had spoken with witnesses and was not accepting the case at this time. He also said Worthy and his lawyers were fully cooperating in the investigation. Records show that Worthy had been arrested Friday by deputies and held in the county jail on a charge of assault on a family or household member in which their breath was impeded or choking in common terms. The online court listing for the case was updated to dismiss decline later Saturday. Williamson County includes parts of Austin where Worthy played college football at the University of Texas. In a statement, Worthy's attorneys, Chip Lewis and Sam Bassett, said their client was innocent of the charge against him. They said the allegations was made by a female who had been living in Worthy's home and that she had been asked to leave the home multiple times over the past 2 weeks upon discovering her infidelity. She refused to vacate the residence and made a number of extortive efforts prior to resorting to the baseless allegations of against Mr. Worthy. The lawyer's statement said the complainant further destroyed a room in the residence, scratched Mr. Worthy's face, ripped parts of his hair out, which there is photographic evidence of. Worthy told law enforcement at the time of the incident he did not want to press charges against the complainant. The Chiefs Associated Press told the Associated Press on Saturday that they were aware of the situation and was gathering information. Okay. So what you all don't know is that this young lady threatened, she wanted to steal his contract. Hello? So if you don't think that there are gold diggers out there, look, you can go on the web and there's a podcast that deals with gold diggers on a regular basis. The point I'm simply trying to make is, with all of that other stuff I just added, is at the end of the day, men do not get the benefit of the doubt. Now, as that article just said, WBAL from right here in Baltimore, that Worthy had scratches on his face and had his hair ripped out. He has dreads. Usually that means the person that did that, the perpetrator, ends up in handcuffs and is in jail. But instead it was Worthy who went to jail. The man. It's not right and it's not fair. And look, I'm not taking a side one way or the other between Anthony Edwards and Aisha Howard. I'm not. But when I'm taking a side of father's rights, what are Anthony's parental rights? Because she decided to have the baby. If the man says, hey, look, just like a man can give up, he can give up his parental rights. But he has to get permission from the court. But if the man can give up his parental rights, just like the woman, and what Anthony told her is that, look, sorry, I don't want anything to do with this child. I don't want you to have the child in the first place. You went on and had it. I don't want anything to do with this child. Please, please, please. I'm going to go ahead and pay all the child support. What's wrong with why y'all attacking Anthony Edwards? I'm just asking the question. Why are y'all attacking Anthony Edwards? Look, it's not making any sense. This stuff is not adding up here. This man decided, hey, look, if I could have, look, the difference in me and Anthony is that I wanted my children. I love my children. But then too, I wasn't out there sleeping with women who I just didn't want to have a child with. See, the difference in Anthony Edwards and me is that Anthony got a bank account worth millions. See, I gotta go along. But see, Anthony has the right, because he makes all that money, to say, hey, look, I'm not taking care of the child. I don't want the child. Boom, let me sign a check. Here's all the child support. I don't want a relationship. Da-da-da-da-da. And now people are trying to guilt trip him and say, hey, look, well, that's gonna be so tough on that child. Well, wait a minute. You need to blame the mother, because the mother decided that, hey, she was going to bring this child to term knowing that this man did not want a child. Don't care if you're mad. This is just fact. I'm going to ask you, why are you getting mad? I need you to answer this question. What are Anthony Edwards' parental rights? If Anthony Edwards wanted to abort the child, why couldn't he abort the child? If she wanted to abort the child, she could have aborted the child. She chose not to. So why doesn't Anthony Edwards have the same rights as she? Oh, her body, her choice. His wallet, his choice. Let's make this equal. Or what if you didn't want to have the child and he wanted to have the child? You see how this is all screwed up and it needs to be addressed? And you all are attacking it. Look, if Anthony did what y'all said he did and he paid up that child support, more power to you, bro. More power to you, because this ain't right. And by the way, I'm an excellent father. I went through hell trying to be one. In fact, had I not have to go through the hell that I went through, I think, and my children are very successful, not bragging, they're very successful. But had someone kept their hands off me, off my wallet, my children would be a lot more successful. I keep telling y'all, you will hear from them. So I'm not mad at Anthony Edwards. Y'all not gonna make me mad at Anthony Edwards. I'm gonna support him, and unless he shows some other way, he don't want to have the child. He didn't want the child. He paid to try to get you to get rid of the child. You know, now all of a sudden you want to claim, here's what killed me with some of these women. They want to claim, oh, it's against my religion. Well, wait a minute, you had a baby by somebody else. What was your religion then? Oh, by the way, what was your religion when you laid down with a man and you weren't married to him? Don't care if you're mad at me. That's the problem here, that we excuse all of this behavior as opposed to making people own up to the mistakes that they made. And Aisha Howard had a choice here. It was her choice. She was trying to hang on to this man's paycheck, and you all know it just as well as I know it. And she can get online and say all this other stuff, and because she's been flooding the airwaves. Sister, you would be better suited if you set your ass back and shut the hell up. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Because you had the public sentiment. Now, as you listen to some of this crap she's spewing out there, you see what type of woman she was in the first place. In fact, you knew it because Anthony Edwards was 25 and you 39. Why you out there screwing this 25-year-old man? That's what y'all say about men who's sleeping with younger women. Why aren't y'all giving her the same medicine? No, you're not. Because you're a double standards. You're double standard. I don't care if you're mad at me. Hey, we gotta take a break. I know you're mad at me. But I'm hoping it's gonna make you think. We'll take a break. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from ReaRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RibRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes. SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils, and yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to SkinTentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. SkinTentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We're still talking about a few things. We spent a lot of time last hour talking about the Anthony Edwards situation. As I said, I don't weigh in on a lot of these cultural issues, but I am one that I will stick up for is for fathers' rights, because what is going on as it relates to fathers' rights in this nation is an abomination. It really is. It's an abomination. And you're finding that more and more men are deciding that they don't even want to have children. You know, and I will tell you from a personal perspective, there was a period in my life where I was dealing with this young lady. This was years ago, okay? And the young lady accused me of fathering one of her children, okay? And I did say one of. And had me served on my job. At the time, I was working at a very high-profile company. I was making very good money. She knew that as well. She accused me of fathering a child, had me served on my job, and at the time when she made this accusation, I knew it was impossible. And some people would argue, well, David, if it was impossible, did you sleep with her? Yes, I did. Twice. I'm one of those weird people who, over my lifetime, I can tell you whether or not I slept with you. And I can almost tell you where it was and when it was. That's just how I am. But anyway, slept with her twice. The baby, let's see, I slept with her in 2 consecutive weekends in November of that year. And the baby was born in October. You see that look on my face? Yeah, you had that same look, didn't you? Let's see. I slept with her in November. Okay, so let's say December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. August would have been at least the last month that she could have delivered that baby. The baby was born in October. By the way, I litigated pro se in court that day. I made that argument to the judge and they said, oh, well, Mr. Coleman, we're gonna, no, wait a minute. I have one other aspect to it. So I went through a very bad divorce. And one of the things that occurred in my divorce is that my ex, not to air dirty laundry, but facts are facts. And look, I've got the court documents if anyone want to dispute it. My ex used my child against me. And it frustrated me so badly. Part of the reason that I started I Love My Children Too and started lobbying in the state legislature. But it frustrated me so badly, it almost made me commit suicide. But it frustrated me so badly, I went and got a vasectomy. Just like a lot of men did the last 3 weeks. You know, the NCAA tournament, there are more vasectomies given than any other time in the year. But I went and got a vasectomy. So at the time that that young lady and I slept together, I had had the vasectomy for a whole year, over a year. They say because within that year, you could still theoretically father a child. So I had already had the vasectomy for at least a year before I slept with this young lady twice in November for a baby that was born in October. I said that at the court hearing. I said, Your Honor, there's no way this could be my child. I even had the doctor's statement in my pocket, presented it to court, still didn't believe me. Made me take the DNA test anyway. By the way, every DNA test that a state gives, they make money off of it. So that's why he did it. Yeah, they do that. There are other issues I could tell you about this. I was in this fight a long time. So needless to say, when the DNA evidence came back, I was 0.00.00.00% not the father, which I knew. And when I went back to court, I asked for my dignity back because you had attempted to embarrass me because I had a father's rights organization. I worked in the community with young people. I was an advocate at my church at the time who turned their back on me. I had had enough. So what's my point here? It's back to the original question that I asked about Anthony Edwards. What are my parental rights as a man? You see, I can talk about this all day long because I lived it. I watched men after men get upset because they couldn't see their children. I watched how women use their children against them. I can tell you the story of the young man whom I had to talk down off the ledge, who was standing outside his girlfriend's house or his ex's house with his pistol and debating whether or not he should shoot her. And I talked to him, and here's the irony about this, is at the time I lived in one city and my son was living in another city. It was a 3-hour drive, and I drove from one city to the other city every weekend to pick my son up, to bring him back to Nashville to be able to live with his dad or be with his dad, or every other weekend, holidays, summers. Now, I'm just being real because this hits home to me, this Anthony Edwards thing. There are so many layers. But let me get back to the story of my friend whom I had to talk off the ledge. I had just dropped my son off in this one city and was driving back home when I got a call. And quite often, I would take those drives late at night. So I would be on I-40 at 12, 1, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning sometimes. I got this call about 1 a.m., 1:30. I was on the road. I was about halfway out. Said, hey man, what's up? And I knew he had been having some issues. Because men would call me all types of times a night. He said, man, I need to talk to you. I said, okay, let's talk. I said, I'm on the road, I ain't going nowhere, so we can talk as long as you need to. He said, I'm getting ready to do it. I said, you getting ready to do what? He said, man, I'm getting ready to blow her MFing brains out. I said, I said, what? I said, what? He said, I'm standing out. I'm looking in her window right now. I'm standing outside her window. And his kids at that time were young. He said, I'm standing out here and I'm getting ready to pop her. And what you all don't know is that this woman had been dogging this brother about his kids. They were boys. She wouldn't let him see his boys. I said, man, you don't want to do that. I said, I know she's done this, and this to you, and I know you're frustrated about it. I said, hey, you can't be no more frustrated than me. But I said, here's the one thing that you need to think about. Is how your children, your sons, going to think about you when their mama's gone and they know daddy done killed her and you sitting in prison or you done blow your brains out. How are they going to grow up? And we went through the machinations of what could potentially happen to him and his children. And we talked all the way back, that hour and a half that I had left on the road, all the way back, pulled into my driveway and sat there in the driveway and talked to him until he finally decided he was going home. He thanks me today. But again, you all think men are not emotional as it relates to their children. These women use these children against us. They treat us with disrespect. You see, I get a raise, they get a raise. I lose my job, they go to jail. If they lose their job, they get food stamps, bus passes, and housing. This is real. This is why I started I Love My Children Too, to equalize the playing field. It's not easy. It's not fun. And it's expensive. To the point where it almost killed me. So I'm not talking from what I heard someone say. I'm talking from what I lived every day for 18 years of my life. Well, I'll say 15 years of my life, because we divorced when he was 3. To the point where I spent 11 days in the Vanderbilt psychiatric ward because I was about to unalive myself. I'm just being real with you. By the way, don't send anybody over here to kill me and then pretend like I killed myself, because I'm over that. I'm way over that. But the pressure was unbearable. And what some of these men who love their children are going through, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. You see, I'm not an Anthony Edwards. I couldn't do that. If I had the money to pay off my child support, would I have done that? Probably. But here's the other thing that I knew, that a lot of my child support wasn't going to my child. And there are a lot of men out there who will tell you the same. who will tell you the same. So, didn't know I was going to be that long, but what really bothered me about this Anthony Edwards thing is how women and some men attacked him. You all are looking at the surface issues. See, I'm looking a little deeper. The man told her he didn't want the child. The man even, a lot of guys will say, well, I don't want the child. And then she said, okay, you give me the money for the abortion. Well, they won't even give the money and expect her to come up with the money. What I would advise men to do in those situations, okay, find out who the doctor is. Where is she having this procedure? If she's going to have the procedure, where is she going to have the procedure? Pick up the phone, call them and say, look, I am financially responsible for her procedure. And if she has the procedure, I will pay you direct. Do not give women money directly anymore. Look, child support people don't do that. But in this case where there's an abortion that is in question and she wants you to pay for it, then you need to tell her that, look, okay, I will pay for it. What clinic are you going to? What doctor are you going to? Okay? And let me know. I will call them. I will give them my credit card, my debit card. I'll send them cash, a cashier's check. What I would advise is really a cashier's check with return receipt. Tell them to call me. Yeah, if I need to come down there and sign something to make me responsible, I'll do that as well. So that way she couldn't pocket that money. But he gave her the money. She pocketed the money. I'm talking about Aisha Howard now. She wanted to have that baby because she knew, and I don't care what you say, that Anthony Edwards was her meal ticket. In fact, what she did, she infringed on Anthony Edwards' parental rights. She infringed on Anthony Edwards' reproductive parental rights. I know what you're saying, but he don't have any. I know, and that's the problem. So you can be mad at Anthony Edwards all you want. Doesn't matter. I'm on Anthony Edwards' side. I'm on any parent's side who needs their rights. And the rights of parents, particularly as it relates to fathers, has got to be initiated. Men have got to start talking about this more and more. And the more I think about it, people keep saying, well, man, when are you going to come back? And I don't know. But it may be time. It may be time to set up a nonprofit and move this forward. We have to do this because our children are suffering. I see little girls on TV shaking their tail like they twerking. I see little girls and little boys on TV cussing like sailors, not on TV, but on the internet cussing like sailors, and y'all are laughing at it. The mothers are laughing at it. This is not AI. This is actual content just to get clicks. I see these children being exploited by their parents. In fact, I saw one video where the mother and I guess whoever else was around was in there and the little girl was twerking and they were laughing and the father walks in and apparently the little girl knew she was wrong and she ran. That's where that father discipline is so important. That's why it's so important. We gotta take a break. This is our last break today. I hope you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit us up on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. On YouTube, we are marching to 1,000 subscribers. Once we get to 1,000, we can really do some things and start monetizing the show even more. So please, please, please go out to YouTube and like, share, and subscribe. Quite often I will post the links to YouTube so you can do that. So please, I would really appreciate it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just a matter of if you love the show. I hope you do. We got to take a break. Back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RealRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from RealRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RibRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RealRub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes. SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils, and yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to SkinTentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. SkinTentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
All right, welcome back to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us if you'd like to join the show. A lot of stuff to talk about. We're about to wrap it up. Of course, we've talked about Carmelo Anthony, the young man that is embroiled in a murder rap for stabbing a twin. We also talked about the Louisiana 10 Commandments bill, as well as the teen app download bill. You need to pay attention to that as well. We spent a lot of time on Anthony Edwards and this issue as it relates to him paying off child support. Let's see what else. So those are the things that we talked about a lot. So we're in the segment now, what we must do. But before we do that, I want to make a couple of points here. We hadn't talked about politics much on this particular show and what has happened in Donald Trump. And by the way, before I even get into that, let me send my condolences and shout out to for Little Rock, Arkansas, Nashville, Tennessee, and Memphis, Tennessee. They are in the eye of the storm as it relates to this downpour and tornadoes. And I saw some pictures the other day of my friends or the area in which I live, Stagecoach Road, before I moved away, and a lot of it is underwater. And to see those pictures were devastating. I drove Stagecoach Road often, and to see those roads, to see that area was devastating. So my love and my condolences goes out to a lot of people out there in Little Rock. The other condolences I go out to people who are on Social Security, which I will be in about a year and a half. I got a birthday next month. I will be on Social Security in a year and a half, which it may not be there. Okay. Also, my condolences goes out to those people out there who are struggling, because those people that just went through that storm, FEMA has been disbanded by Donald Trump. Many of those people that went through that storm are in red states: Kentucky, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri. Those are red states. You don't have FEMA anymore. By the way, while y'all are trying to keep from drowning or being whisked off to Oz, your dear leader is playing golf. Doesn't give a damn about you. More to that point, he doesn't give a damn about, he just had the largest stock fall in decades. The stock market just lost $6.6 trillion on Thursday and Friday. 6.6 trillion. Y'all care yet? Yeah, is this short-term pain? You know, it's easy for millionaires and billionaires to talk about short-term pain because they got money in the bank. But when you making $12 an hour, when you struggling to make ends meet, you're living from paycheck to paycheck, you can barely pay your utility bill. You can barely put food on the table and gas on the table. You can't deal with short-term pain because you're dealing with pain every day. And any other pain that you have, it's just going to exacerbate the situation to the worst degree. So what do you got to do here? Well, last week, Wisconsinites showed us what we need to do. Elon Musk dumped $20 million into a campaign for, Supreme Court in Wisconsin. They vote for the Supreme Court. Elon Musk dumped $20 million into that campaign. They lost because the people, they did this, and then they did this. They voted. They got out to vote, and they voted against Elon Musk and the right-wing nut jobs that are out there. In Florida, although there were 2 races that were important, the Democrats didn't win those races, but Trump won both of those races by a margin of 30 points. One of the races was down to 10 points and the other one was down to 15. You see, we've talked a lot on this show about elections having consequences, and they do. We're seeing it every day. We're seeing it with Elon Musk. We're seeing it with this Doge. We're seeing these nutbags that are hollering about DEI. They're trying to close the National Civil Rights Museum. Think about it from this perspective. Think about it. Lloyd Austin was a 4-star general, okay? He was the Secretary of Defense. He was replaced by Donald Trump. Admiral Lisa Franchetti, she was 40 years in the U.S. Navy. She was replaced by Donald Trump. General C.Q. Brown was 41 years in the Air Force. He had 300 hours of flight time. He had 131 hours in the combat zone. He was released by Donald Trump for people like Pete Hegseth and those cronies who are conducting private information or confidential information or top secret information on not only Signal, but on Google, in Google emails. And they've done it, according to reports, over 20 times. The question is, as I ask in this segment every day, what are you going to do? See, here's the thing. Think about it from this perspective. If someone comes and they're knocking on your door, and the first one they come and they lightly knock, you don't answer. They knock more, you don't answer. They knock more, you don't answer. And they continue to get louder and louder and louder. This is what the police does. To the point where it irritates you, you get up and answer the door. See, what they want you to do is not answer the door. Because you begin to understand that it's not what you want to hear. You want to ignore it. And they too want you to ignore it. So they can just keep knocking. They can keep doing what they're doing. This is how the Trump administration is operating. They just want you to keep doing what you're doing. They don't want you to pay attention to what they're doing, like sending people out of the country without due process. You see, if they can send people out of the country without due process, you're next. You're next. Therein lies the problem. So what you must do, you got to be vigilant. This past weekend, the 5th, Saturday, I had a four-leaf clover hunting contest. Now, they said they were having some type of marches downtown, but I wasn't going to participate because, see, black people have been on the front lines fighting for your equality for a long time. Because with your equality, you got affirmative action, and white women benefited from affirmative action. White women benefited from DEI more than any other people. Those people that we just talked about, they called them DEI hires and fired them, and they hired people like Pete Hegseth. We're not participating anymore. Yeah, are we going to fight for ours? Yes, we are. But we've got to fight with each other. Those of you who are like minds have got to start marching with us. And I'm talking good when it's convenient, but then when you go into the polls, the voting booths, you don't follow up with what you said you were going to do. You might be saying, well, why are black people mad at us? That's why. And what we must do as black people is continue to hold their feet to the fire. And we need to make sure that we are marching and voting in blocks. That's important. That's important. We've got to continue this process. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right, we got to wrap the show up. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, go out to YouTube. I'm going to post the link to the YouTube link here in just a moment. Go out to YouTube. It'll be posted under this show. And if you haven't become a subscriber, please do. We are trying to get to 1,000. It's called our March to 1,000. And we can only do it with your help. So get out there. Tell a friend. Share with a friend. We would really, really appreciate it. Okay? All right. We're out of here. We'll see you next week. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joynetradio.com.